Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be replacing the CV axles on my 2001 Volkswagen Golf TDI. I have the 5-speed manual transmission. I chose Raxles. These are the best in my opinion. They are expensive, but I think it's well worth it. You can see the part number here for the right, and there's the left side. These are really nicely packaged. And you do have to send your OEM axles back to them, and they rebuild them. Give you hardware, which is nice, along with the torque specs. And there's the driver's side. And a nice return shipping label. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is pop the center cap off the wheel here. These are aftermarket wheels, and we're going to break that nut loose there. Same with the passenger side. So I'm going to be working back and forth here, but I'm going to concentrate mainly on this passenger side because most of the YouTube videos out there show the driver's side. Okay, that exposes the nut. This is pretty badly rusted. I'm going to spray it up. There should be a dust cap over this. It looks like this, but this clearly is missing the dust cap, and that's why we have a lot of corrosion. Let that soak for a bit. I'll spray the other side too while I wait. Alright, next step, get a 30mm 12-point socket to fit over this nut. And then I highly recommend an impact gun to take this off. Breaker bar will also work if you don't have an impact gun, but an impact gun makes it a lot easier. Alright, the next step, I'm going to go ahead and break these lug bolts loose, jack the front end up, and take both wheels off. Alright, I have both wheels removed, the splash shield removed underneath, and now what I'm going to do is go ahead and remove actually break them loose, the bolts that hold the CV axle to the transmission. I'm going to do that for both sides, and then we can proceed further. But this side, on the passenger side, has that shield I'm going to remove that. There's two 16mm bolts there that hold that in place. I'm going to go ahead and remove those, and that'll give us more room. Okay, this is the special socket that you need to remove those bolts. This is an M8 12 point. Now when you put this in the bolt head, make sure that it fully seats inside the whole way, because you don't want to strip those little teeth on there. So it's very important. So I'm going to go ahead under here and slowly break all those loose, and then we can proceed further. Okay, so I'm slowly starting to loosen these up. So I got these two loose so far, and what I'm doing is I'm reaching over and spinning the rotor by hand. Like this. And then getting my socket and inserting it into the bolt head there. Make sure it's in there the whole way. It's tough to get around that boot. So once you get that set up, if you try to loosen, the whole thing's going to spin. So what I do is I get a junk screwdriver and stick it in the rotor here like this, in that slot there, and that prevents the whole thing from spinning, because once you start to loosen, that screwdriver will prevent the whole thing from turning because the caliper's there. So come back under here, and then we can go ahead and loosen. I just repeat that process until I get them all loose. So that one's loose, and these three are loose. So we have a few more to do, and that'll be it for this one. Okay, this is the driver's side. A little different setup here. So I have the screwdriver preventing the whole thing from spinning, right there. And then I have a 15-inch extension with a 3-inch extension, and on the end of that is the socket we need right there. So the same process, just do one at a time and then rotate, and so you can get better access. Okay, for the next step, we're going to tap the axle in and break it loose out of the steering knuckle. So I have this punch right here. It fits in this center hole perfectly, and I'm just going to go ahead and take my 4-pound sledge and break it free. Okay, I managed to get the driver's side axle pushed through, but the passenger side is being stubborn for some reason, so I'm going to leave it sit. I sprayed it up real good in there, so we'll see. Leave it sit for a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this CV axle here first. Okay, I have all the bolts removed, so the axle is loose. This is the driver's side, by the way. Axle is loose. I'm going to try to get it out of there without removing anything else. I know a lot of guys remove the ball joint down here and this sway bar link. So I may or may not have to do that. Let's see how this goes. See if I can maneuver this thing out of here. Okay, there we go. Well, it is able to be done. I got it done without removing the sway bar end link and the ball joint. So there we have it. It's out. You can see the torn boot here. And this side here is torn. I was getting a clicking noise in the front end when I would turn, and yeah, these are shot, so make sure you save these because you're going to send these back to Raxles. These are the original. Yeah, the vehicle has 228,000 miles on it, so got a lot of life out of these. Alright, this end they already pre-packed it with grease from the factory. They have this plastic wrap on here to protect that. And the gasket's pre-installed too. As you can see, they state that right here. And here's the old one. You can see the gasket is stuck in there. It came off with it, which is good. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and slide this axle up in there. I'm going to leave this plastic on for the time being in case we get any debris in there. Alright, this is the direction I'm going up with the new axle. In between the tie rod end here and the control arm. So with some patience you can do it. Alright, I managed to get that new CV axle in place. And I got the new hardware installed loosely, so I'm going to go ahead now and torque each of these down to 29 foot-pounds. And that'll be it. As far as that goes in there, then I can go back on the passenger side. Alright, here's my setup to torque these down. Remember, they get torqued to 29 foot-pounds. Just repeat the process. Remember, going a crisscross pattern. Alright, I have the axle nut on here. I'm not going to torque it yet though. I'm just going to tighten it up until it's snug. We'll torque it once I get the wheel on and put it on the ground. Okay, that's snug there. That's it for now. Okay, it finally started to move in. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to beat it on the rest of the way through. And hopefully it goes well. Okay. Alright, I have it disconnected on the inside. So, let's see if I can maneuver this shaft out of here. Or axle, I should say, like I did the other side. Alright, looks like I'm going to have to remove these three 13mm bolts at the lower ball joint here. I need to slide this knuckle off of the control arm to get this CV axle out of here. There's no other way to do it on this side, it's just too tight. So that's what we got to do. Okay, there we go. I'll pull it out that way. That's the only way to do it. Okay, there it is. OEM axle. And here's the new one ready to go. There's the part number. And of course, new hardware. Okay, I'm going to remove this plastic wrap first and then slide it up into position. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and get some bolts started right there just to get that secure. Then I'll come back over here and start to button up this side with the control arm or the ball joint there. Okay, I have these three lower ball joint bolts back in place there. They get torqued to 15 foot-pounds plus a quarter turn. So I'm going to go ahead and do this now. Okay, there's 15 plus a quarter turn. Okay, there we go. That's it for those. Now I'm going to go ahead and torque the CV axle bolts there on the transmission. Those get torqued to 29 foot-pounds. Alright, here's my setup to torque these bolts. I have a 1/2-inch drive, 10-inch to a 15-inch extension, and then we have our, you can see that there, that is a reducer to go 1/2-inch to 3/8 drive, then a 15-inch extension. Then at the very end there we have the M8 socket ready to go. Okay, that one's good. Repeat that process for all 6. And remember to go in a crisscross pattern like a star. And that's it. Okay, everything's buttoned up underneath the vehicle. I have the splash shield back on and another shield over the axle there. That's on. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this nut up by hand and then put the wheels on, lower the vehicle on the ground here, and then we'll torque these. Alright, here we go. Last part, we're going to torque these axle nuts. They get torqued to 148 foot-pounds. There's a special procedure for this, so I'll do it a step at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and torque it to 148 foot-pounds first. Okay, that's torqued. Now, next step is to loosen a 1/2 turn. And we have to roll the vehicle 1/2 turn. I have this tape for that reason. So I'm just going to roll until this tape is on this side. Okay, now last step, get your torque wrench again, take the setting down to 37 foot-pounds and torque it there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and torque this to 37 foot-pounds. My torque wrench is set. There we go. That's torqued. So we need to go an additional 60 degrees. I'll show you how to do that next. Okay, last step. So what you need to do is mark one of the points on this 12-point nut. I marked this top point here with a red Sharpie, if you could see that there. And the distance in between each of these points is 30 degrees. We need to turn an additional 60 degrees. So mark the hub at the 3rd point. Count over 1, 2, and then mark the hub right here. So that'll be your 60 degrees once you turn this. Line this mark up with the mark on the hub. Okay, here we go. I'll do a little bit at a time because I can't see. Almost there. A little bit more. Okay, that is torqued correctly. can see my little mark. If you can see it, I hope this thing focuses right, but anyways, my red mark here is lined up with the mark on the hub, and that is the additional 60 degrees we needed, so that completes it. Put your dust cap back on, and that is it, guys. I hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Feel free to comment below. Check out in the description. I'll have links for parts and whatnot. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.